Unfortunately, that's not what's happening in Queensland, where Premier Miles, also named Giggles because he has this giggle that he gets when he gets nervous, but he's
very
vowed
Kamala
to...
Harris-like. It's like,
It is a little
nothing's funnier to Kamala than the middle of a sentence she doesn't know how to finish or a question she doesn't know how to answer. He does. He just starts kind of laughing and you're just like, what's funny? What's the joke?
Yeah, well, Premier Giggles Miles has vowed to push ahead with a treaty between non-Indigenous people and Indigenous people. Here we go, dividing up the community again. He's pushing ahead with treaty despite the fact that 70% of Queenslanders voted no to dividing Australia by race last October at the referendum, and former Premier Annastacia Palaszczuk, after the referendum, walked away from treaty, saying unless there's bipartisan agreement, then it's not going to work. Well, he's forgotten all about that. One of the first things he did upon becoming Premier was to reappoint a Minister for Treaty. And though he's got no personal mandate, I mean, he was installed by the unions, he's going to push ahead with this. And here's the irony. He's pushing ahead with treaty at the same time that he's banging on about cost of living. Have a look at this tweet from Premier Miles. He tweeted recently, "You're paying more for fresh food while our farmers are getting less. At a time when the cost of living is biting for Australians, I find that hard to accept." Well, most Australians would agree with that, but I find it hard to accept. He's going to spend $300 million not on treaty, but preparing the groundwork for a treaty that clearly no one in his state wants.
And the relevant minister at the time when they inked this, which they have already, so crucifully should he win, he's vowed to get rid of this, but he would literally have to scrap what has already been legislated.
That's
They've
right.
already, and initially the LNP, to their absolute disgrace, supported this, but crucifully, unlike many other leaders in this country, then wisened up post the voice vote and said, well, actually, no, clearly people do not want this, and therefore I will not support it. Thankfully, here he is saying much the same again, just on Bolt earlier this evening.
Queenslanders spoke and I listened, and the government's not listening. And so they can embark on whatever process they want. I've been upfront and clear that referendum, the way that I saw it unfold, the Prime Minister did not listen to the warning bells. He was told repeatedly that it would divide the nation. He was told repeatedly it wouldn't deliver what he said it was going to deliver, and he didn't listen. If the government wants to be pig-headed, if they want to continue down this path, Queenslanders will speak again. But I am telling Queenslanders I have heard the message, and it's not on the agenda, and our focus is going to be on outcomes, which is what I've always wanted from this.
Pay attention to the MPs that blatantly, flagrantly ignore the very clear wishes of their constituency. There's a poll in the Courier Mail just today on this topic, and it already has almost 5,000 votes. 93% of them say no. No treaty. We're not interested. So in every poll, whether you want to look at The Voice, like you've rightly pointed out, Queensland had the strongest no vote in the nation. The polls were already showing that prior to the referendum, and they came good on it. This is not something that they want. And it's not just the $3 million. With the initial work of
$300 million.
$300 million, thank you. With the initial work of path to treaty, the relevant minister at the time said that theirs, unlike other states who have gone, well, we're going to look at a statewide treaty, Queensland wants a treaty with each specific tribe within Queensland. And there's over 150 different Aboriginal tribes in that state. And he was saying outright, he was like, well, each of these, they can make whatever demands they like, and each of these treaties could cost millions.
The only people excited about this are lawyers. But did you notice David Crisafulli's language there? I thought it was very interesting. He said a treaty is not on the agenda. So he didn't rule it out completely. He's given himself wriggle room, and I don't think he'll come back to it. But I would have liked a stronger, more definitive statement from the leader of the Conservatives.
A never statement,
Correct, and it's not on the agenda.
And can I say there's an inherent stupidity right at the base of this. Since the 1400s, this is me putting on my wordman hat, the word treaty has meant an agreement between two or more nation states. A provincial state premier can't negotiate a treaty, and he can't negotiate it with little groups of people.
Yeah.
You've got to have 2 or more nation states before it's a treaty. Whatever bits of paper he comes up with, and whatever they end up costing Queenslanders, they won't be treaties. There'll be some sort of little mini contracts or something. It's a dishonest game they're playing.
Now, Premier Miles was in Queensland with the Prime Minister. They were touring flood-affected areas in the state. But Liz, I want to get your take on this because when Anthony Albanese says that you are going to be the next Premier, is that a bold prediction or is it the kiss of death? Have a look.
Look, Annastacia Palaszczuk was a very good Premier of Queensland. She's a friend of mine. She won 3 elections in a row. She's a Labor hero. This bloke here is going to be a Labor hero when he wins the next election, held later this year.
I just like it the way he said, this bloke here.
Yeah, I've forgotten his name temporarily, but
he was doing
I wouldn't be surprised if Miles was actually taking a step back in that moment, like, oh.
He was almost doing it Joe Biden, the person beside me.
Oh, yeah,
will be
yeah.
the next Premier.
Our mate from Australia, and Morrison's on the other side of the world via Skype being like, my name.
But I mean, Elbo's had such a good track record of picking winners. If you're Steven Miles, do you want Elbo to anoint you the next big thing?
I think it would be more likely the kiss of death. And we also know the Premier has another problem to wrangle on his hands at the moment because Annastacia Palaszczuk, her legacy is this Olympics that Queenslanders are now going to be bleeding out of every orifice paying for, something that, again, nobody voted for. And in fact, polling shows just today, the vast majority of Queenslanders never asked for this and certainly don't want it. Check out this stat. A survey by the Courier Mail of almost 7,000 Queenslanders showed 66% of people did not support building billions of dollars of infrastructure. 74% of people would stay away from the sporting event. And when asked whether they thought the Olympics was money well spent, 78% said no. Sadly, it's a bit late to pull the plug at the moment, isn't it? This would be far worse than what Premier Andrews did, because that was just the Commonwealth Games. This is the Olympic Games we're talking about.
If it was Dan Andrews there, he wouldn't hesitate to pull the plug. He's really good at that kind of thing. And it really, people have been saying this now for some years, and it really is the truth. It is time for the Olympic Games to go to Athens permanently every 4 years. A permanent set of facilities, because no country in the world can afford it anymore. They just lose money on it. So it's just nuts. Athens is obviously the home of the Olympics. You put it in Athens, you put it there permanently, and everyone goes there every 4 years and has an Olympic Games. This nonsense would not happen if that was going on. This is a man doing something that people don't want done.